Working at a place like this, there are hazards we can recognize. Moving equipment, heavy materials, and loud noise can all pose a threat to our safety. But today, we're going to talk about something that you likely can't see. Something that's every bit as threatening to your health and safety as some big machine. Chances are, you're doing it right now. Today, we're going to talk about breathing. More specifically, respiratory protection. Now, respiratory hazards are very real. Many employees like you and me are exposed to breathing hazards while we're at work. We need to protect ourselves. To do that, we need to wear the right PPE for the job. We wouldn't walk around a construction site without a hard hat or weld without proper shielding, right? Personal protective equipment is a critical last line of defense against exposure to workplace hazards. When engineering controls, work practices, and other measures cannot eliminate a hazard, then PPE must be used as a guard against injury and illness. Examples of PPE include respirators, safety glasses and goggles, face shields, hard hats, gloves, boots, earplugs, earmuffs, and, you guessed it, respirators. But in all seriousness, do keep in mind PPE can fail and leave you exposed. So use clean, well-maintained, and properly fitting PPE along with other protective methods. We know there are many hazards in the workplace that are unseen. Breathing these in is the easiest way for airborne contaminants to get in our bodies. Toxic substances can come in many forms, like harmful dusts, gases, and mists. There are also sprays, smokes, vapors, and fogs. And let's not forget toxic fumes. Some examples of toxic substances that can damage your airway, lungs, and other organs include silica dust, hexavalent chromium, and asbestos. Plus, there are various chemicals, radioactive particles, and biological agents like viruses, bacteria, mold spores, and fungi. We've got to wear our PPE. Depending on the substance and duration of exposure, we can suffer serious health effects from breathing in respiratory hazards. Crystalline silica permanently damages the lungs, hexavalent chromium attacks numerous organs, and others can kill after a few hours of exposure. We need to use protection when the risk of contact with a toxic substance is above the permissible exposure limits, or oxygen levels are immediately dangerous to life and health. Our employers need to have written respiratory protection plans that include worksite-specific procedures. Also, they must allow us to review those plans. It's obvious that different respirators offer different levels of protection. That's measured by the Assigned Protection Factor, or APF. When selecting a respirator for the job, the first thing we have to do is check that it's the right respirator for the job. If the job involves sanding, sawing, grinding, or spraying, we'll need to wear a respirator with a particulate filter. If it's a job that involves gases or vapors, we'll need a respirator that's air purifying or atmosphere supplying. And if you're lucky enough to have unknown hazards, we'll want to wear a supplied air respirator or self-contained breathing apparatus. Based on the hazards, our employers must provide a NIOSH certified respirator. There are two classes of respirators designed to keep you safe on the job: air purifying respirators and atmosphere supplying respirators. Let's look a little more closely. Air purifying respirators remove contaminants from the air through filters, cartridges, or canisters as you breathe. These are often best suited for chipping, cutting concrete, or drilling rock that might contain silica. Dust masks are a common type of non-powered, air purifying respirator that uses a particulate filter. They make up over 70% of all respirators in the workplace. Particulate filters used in air purifying respirators are classified and selected based on the presence or absence of oils and the level of efficiency needed. The letter describes the filter's ability to function when exposed to oils. The number refers to the filter's ability to remove particulates. But remember, no particulate filter will protect you from gases or vapors. In that case, we'll need a chemical cartridge or canister. Of course, there are exceptions and special PPE considerations. Not all of us can wear respirators for reasons like impaired lung function or if we just can't get a good fit. There's a medical component to respirator use. In fact, before you can be fitted for and wear a respirator at work, you must be evaluated to be sure you're physically capable. There will be a medical exam, and the exam must be performed by a physician or other licensed healthcare professional. That is the only person who can green light us medically. Plus, there may be follow-up medical evaluations if we happen to have problems. Workplace hazards can take many forms. There are mechanical hazards that might seem obvious, but less obvious hazards can be chemical and radiological. That could be liquids, gases, dust, and microorganisms. With that in mind, know that no single piece of protective equipment can protect us against all hazards. So it's important that we use all recommended PPE and make sure that it fits properly. It's for your protection. If it doesn't fit or isn't used, you're risking your health. With a proper fit being so critical, that means face pieces must fit tightly. There are a few instances that prevent a tight, safe fit, like having facial hair that comes between the skin and the sealing surface. There's the possibility that an employee has a condition that would prevent a tight, safe fit. Or there's a chance that goggles or glasses interfere with a face piece seal. The next step in keeping us safe is taking care of our respirators properly. A respirator needs to be cleaned to remove contamination and help prevent irritation. Keep it clean. Respirators have a series of valves that create the protection. If you don't keep them clean, you could breathe the hazardous air. Always follow company procedures and cleaning products recommended by the manufacturer. When it comes to cleaning, follow this fairly simple process. Start by cleaning, then sanitizing and rinsing your respirator. Then dry and reassemble it and give it a thorough inspection. Now is the time to replace parts like filters, cartridges, or any other parts as needed. Also check that the valves are secure, clean, and operational. Next, check that the facepiece, straps, tubes, and hoses are in good condition. Then check the cartridges and canisters and be sure their service life hasn't expired. And if it's faulty, don't use it until it can be inspected by an authorized repair professional. So, that's a lot of talk about respiratory protection. We wouldn't be talking about this now if it weren't important though. Keep your respirator clean and in good working condition. Follow your employer's policies and the respirator manufacturer's recommendations for care. I'm not gonna stand here and tell you that your life depends upon how you handle and use your respirator, but it does.